Glad tidings, fellow rapscallions. It's me, Mucky Mitts, and I am here for part three of It's Okay to Suck and Start Again. And it's a little bit of an opportunity to sort of introduce myself a little bit to why I'm doing what I'm doing. But also, it's an opportunity for me to try and inspire other people to try and live their dreams. So basically, I feel like we've sort of gone on a few, part one and part two. I kind of have to reiterate some of the things. Maybe I'll say a few things over and over again because, you know, the early videos haven't really got a lot of viewers as it stands, which is okay. You know, like, you've got to take the rough with the smooth when it comes to these kind of things and understand that, you know, it is going to take a little bit of time. So if you could and you would, hit the subscribe button, hit like, hit share if you can, and let's get sort of into where we're going with it today. So first and foremost, where are we going to go with this? Well, basically over the coming weeks I'm going to start applying different things where, you know, I'm going to try and learn something over the course of the week, and I'm going to try and, while we're here, I'll record me making a track, and I'll work on one little bit of it, and then I'll work on another little bit of it, and I'll work on another bit of it, and you can see how I kind of build a track. And then if you are a music producer and you think I'm doing it wrong, then you can also, you know, have to give me the you can give me some tips and pointers. You know, constructive criticism is always welcome. You know, obviously there's a lot of people out there that will be, and that's just how the internet works, unfortunately. You know, a lot of people like to tell you things and be not very nice. So I'm going to play a few tracks now. This one is possibly, I think this is the one I'm going to release on Friday. I'll not play it all the way through because, I mean, it's sort of nearly 3 minutes long, so I'll sort of just play it from this. I'll play it from the start, and then, you know, once it gets into the main bit, you'll get the idea. So this one is called Hip Hop Adventure, and I suppose it kind of makes sense to release this one on Friday because I have jumped around from genre to genre. I listened to my own Spotify the other day, and I kind of realised I've sort of shifted quite a bit from one bit to another. So I'll allow this to sort of get into it, and then okay, so you get the gist of it. I make instrumental hip hop, and this one's a little bit more upbeat than what I've been making in recent times. But I did make it last year, and I was going to release it last year, but I sort of, like say, went on a bit of a tangent and making different tracks, and then some that I don't know. I'm kind of like, I think when you make music, it's very difficult to it's a patience game, and unfortunately, you know, when people aren't really subscribing to your Spotify account or listening to your music, or you don't, for want of a better word, you don't go viral and things like that, it kind of makes you feel a little bit like, oh, my music might be a bit rubbish. Or so you jump, you know, I jumped from sort of that, and I've always sort of stayed within the sort of more urban stuff, but I've also sort of made some melodic techno, and sort of more sort of like, so when you go for, if you went through my Spotify, my Mucky Mitt Spotify, it would, or even like on YouTube, you can listen to my music on YouTube as well. So it's basically on all good streaming websites, and also available to buy on iTunes if you felt like that. So, but anyway, I digress. So basically what I'm trying to say is, I kind of haven't done myself any favours, and I've jumped from one thing to another. I mean, I think I've got about 6 or 7 different social media pages in different realms. So there's this one, and I've got three or four Instagram, 2 that I probably pay more attention to. But over Instagram, I've got roughly about 90,000 followers over 3 different, three different accounts. You'll also find I'm not editing this. This is just raw content, so I'm not, there's no bells and whistles and stuff like that. Maybe as I go down the line, I will sort of edit it, but I'm just trying to keep them short, and stuff like that. But like I say, I've got, roughly about 90,000 followers over 3 accounts on Instagram. I've got a TikTok account that's got very little, and I've been working on that consistently for a year. It's very difficult to sort of build up that, making content, and I've only just come back to making content and posting it on YouTube. So again, I've kind of jumped and I'm trying to sort of, as much as I'm trying to learn, to be better with music and everything, I'm also trying to be better with making content, more consistent, making good content. And I think one of the things that I've sort of watched recently is like the Manosphere, with the Louis Theroux, and it's quite, there's part of, I do believe that, guys and men sort of, we have been demonized to a degree, but I also feel like there are good men out there, and I feel like we should still be allowed to sort of be men without being misogynistic. So that was one of the other things that I wanted to sort of, but I'm not just sort of focusing on men. I want to focus on everybody, so. But like I say, I've sort of gone, I've gone into one genre of music, and I've gone into another genre of music, and eventually you just sort of like, you're not really aiming at one particular crowd, and I kind of feel like maybe I sold out a little bit. Well, not sold out because I didn't make any money from it, but like through my shorts and things like that, I've seen that sort of people are sort of, watching shorts quite a lot, but not so much these longer form content videos. So that's that one. But I have now sort of like found the sound that I want to make, and I mean, this is more, like the dark trip hop. I mean, this one is one, where is it? This one is more sort of like one that I've composed myself. It's called The Doll.
Couldn't sleep.
And I've sampled like an old horror radio show.
And I remembered the words I'd heard spoken in that unearthly little voice.
Pardon me. So it's a bit of an introduction, so.
And I wondered if I'd only imagined those words, or whether they had actually been uttered by the creature in the box in the other room. It was then I heard it like a thin, reedy piping. It sounded like music, a rhythmic, discordant melody I'd never heard before. And then, I heard another sound. Henry, yes? Am I going crazy on it too? I think we better see what it is. All right. You don't like this, Henry? I like what it sounds like. Henry.
So you get the idea of that one, and that basically, that was one that I've sort of, I've written all the chords myself and made all the, sort of everything, and the melody and all that. So kind of a proud moment really, because I've been making music for 5 years, and I've kind of not made, I've not sort of done a lot of music theory, but one of those things you don't necessarily have to a lot. So. But, so that's kind of more the sound, like a more sort of like noughties, trip hop, you know, that one's, for me, that's a bit more sort of like a Portishead-esque type thing. And like, if you listen to the Dummy album, I think that there's a track called Mr. On's on there, and that's one of my favourite sort of tracks of theirs. So kind of a bit of a nod to that. I made another one, but I actually lost it on my old laptop, so I've lost a lot of music as well. And then I sort of, what's this one? So
This is a story that has been told in bits and pieces. This is an attempt to pull most of it together. We know we don't have the full story. We do, however, have some striking new revelations and insights. The story begins here, just off the nation's front yard, the Mall. The buildings behind me were the headquarters for the World War II Office of Strategic Services. It was here that the first halting steps toward mind control began.
So that one's a bit more work in progress, and something that I've got to work on, but you kind of get the idea of where, you know, I've got a bit more of a formula of work and a direction that I want to go in, and I want to sort of build up through, you know, doing these YouTube videos. I mean, like, it could take a while, you know, it could, something might click like that, and then suddenly, brap, you know, you're in there. But, you know, I'm also releasing a track on Friday, so keep your eyes peeled for that. That was the first track that I played before, so if you you know, if you keep your eyes out, it will come on YouTube. So I mean, if you hit the notification bell, if you subscribe, well, actually it won't come out through that way because it releases it for, I need to work that one out. But yeah, I release it through DistroKid, and I need to work out how I can access that YouTube through that, because it's sort of like not released onto this page. I need to work that one out. So, but yeah, so I'm kind of like looking to sort of get that moving, really. But like, I just want to sort of like, you know, again, keep it quite short. If you could subscribe, that would be amazing. If not, you know, hit like, that's really helpful. I'm not asking you to go out and buy my records or anything like that on iTunes, but you know, if you do want to support, the best way to do it is to hit subscribe and, you know, share as well, and then, you know, add me on Spotify or whatever other, you know, platforms that you may use to listen to music. And, you know, that my target is, you know, over the course of the next month or two, to hit 100 followers on both YouTube and you know, Spotify, which is very modest, I guess, but you know, we start there and then we'll see where we get to. But again, you know, I'm starting from scratch, and hence the word, it's okay to suck and start again. But this is where I want to inspire other people, where you may have started something and it's not quite gone the way you wanted it to, or you may not feel like you got the support that you needed. But that's why I want to build a community of good-hearted people and kind-hearted souled people that can hopefully work together. And it doesn't have to just be music, you know, we can talk about different things about. So, you know, as a part, aside from the music, you know, we can have hopefully we'll build a nice little community where we can chat and, you know, eventually sort of start doing lives and things like that once I've got enough followers on here. But I need to hit 500 before I can do that. So, you know, 500 followers. Anywho, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you as per usual, and hope that you do subscribe and that we come back next week for part 4 of It's Okay to Suck and Start Again. If you haven't seen any of the previous ones, I'll pop the first one just here so you can look at it, and then you can go from the first one, and then I think, you know, and so forth and so on. You can have a little bit of a binge watch if you want. I'm trying to keep him within like 10 to 15 minutes, so and then maybe we might get another one, what, you know, might do twice a week or something like that. Anyway, for now, toodle pip, thank you for joining me, goodbye.